now watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Say it ain't so. The boys are on a heater, which means Jay Rosehill doesn't have to shave his head, which also means Jay Rosehill doesn't have to do a show. Tarps off. Happy Thursday, buddy. What's going on?
Feeling good. Checked my phone there a little. Was it going into the third period? And I was like, man, the boys better get this going here, because I don't feel like having my tarp off for an entire show and having questions about that. And I wasn't shaving this flow either. Let's be honest.
No, I really digged your confidence yesterday. Inferior opponent. You're playing Arizona. They had lost 4 in a row against them. They took care of business. Obviously, the recap is coming up. We'll preview the Leafs and Golden Knights going for 6 in a row. Morgan Rielly's going to come back in the lineup. But first and foremost, off the top, and again, it's Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill, the Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Betano. Dude, I couldn't believe it. Donald Brashear, A, is still playing hockey, and B, still fighting at the ripe age of 52 in the Quebec Pro League he danced the other day.
I just don't get it, man. Like, do you got anything else going on with, like, have you turned the page at all? What are you doing with your life, man? Like, look at this big meathead he's fighting, and he's squaring off, and he's a big lefty. So, and they get trading a little bit there. He's trying to overpower the guy. They get trading, and then Brashear kind of goes down here after they go toe to toe for a minute. Like, Jesus, I think about doing that, pushing 40, let alone past 50. That's wild, man. He must love it, or really need the money, or something, but he's still giving her. That's for sure. Old Donald, good for him.
You know what's wild, too? He's wearing number 87. Must be an ode to Sidney Crosby or something. But I thought that was wild. I didn't even know Donald Brashear was still playing hockey. Like, this guy has been, 15 years removed from the NHL and still dropping the gloves at 52. Do you remember your last fight in the NHL, by the way? Like, do you remember who was it against?
No, not off the top of my head. I can't remember. Remember my last one ever, but no, I didn't realize it was my last one. So I have to look that up.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I guess in the moment you wouldn't realize that it's your last fight. Your last fight happened in England or what?
Yeah, I remembered that, and I remember just my adrenaline didn't spike, and it was just this kid was throwing so hard, and I was just like, holy smokes, boys. I think I don't see myself doing this a whole lot more times here in the future. But yeah, there was definitely a sign on my last one that might be my last one.
It's sort of funny. I mean, we talk about this a lot with Ryan Reeves being on the Maple Leafs, but how phased out fighting has become. Like, even watching the Buffalo Montreal game the way it did last night, Arbor Jacki, there's nobody who wants to step up to that guy. He rocked. Zemgus Girgensons on Buffalo, and nobody batted an eye. So it's not just the Leafs that are doing that, by the way, but like, there are not as many willing combatants now in the NHL. Like, you can probably count on one hand who's willing to go at it with the big boys in the league. Where back in the day, and you played, like, every team had like at least 2 tough guys, no?
Oh, it's crazy. You look at some of the rosters going back to, that 2000 era, and some guys have 3 and 4 guys. You look and you're like, how did they have all of those guys on the same roster? It's insanity. Like, it was crazy, man. You needed it all. You needed it all. You didn't want someone to come in with more firepower and push you around. That was just a recipe for disaster. And to a lot of teams, it was a recipe for success. And that's what they did. It was crazy. And I kind of came in on the tail end of that. And, if I were 10 years older, I would have probably played 10 years more in the NHL. But if I was 10 years younger, I might not have ever stepped on the ice. So a few different ways to look at it. But yeah, the game changed right as I was in it. There's no question about it. And I just wasn't the one that was going to keep traveling the world doing fisticuffs until I'm 55, like old Donald over there. But yeah, things happened in a hurry. They changed it all there, starting in, I don't know when it all started. To me, it's that summer of losing Bugard and Belak and Rippon all in the same summertime. They were all completely different incidents that weren't related in any way, shape, or form, but the media sure liked to have a heyday with that. That bothered me. I remember being in Toronto, and the media just, how many dead hockey players do we need to see before the NHL bans fighting? And every idiot with a pen and a freaking laptop decided they were going to have their heyday with their column. And it was a chain reaction in a hurry, man. And guys got rid of their tough guys really fast. It was kind of all in a hurry by 2014-15 there. It was like a shell of what it once was in that department.
Of course, the irony too of Donna Brashear fighting in the Quebec Pro League, I think they're outlawing fighting in the Q, right? In the QMJHL. Like, it's a different time. That's wild to me to watch Donna Brashear fight at 52. Like, how much do you think he gets paid per game? Like $300? Like,
I have no idea, man. That Quebec league, I don't know much about it. I know guys that go over there to do it. I thought maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago I heard Brashear was in there. I keep hearing Brashear just pop up again, like he's at it again, and it's like, what is he? Does he pop in for a weekend here and there? Or is he on a team? Has he been playing consistently every year? I don't think that's the case, but yeah, I guess we should pull up some hockey DB and see what he's been playing, but I don't know what's driving the man. Something obviously,
yeah.
maybe just the love of the game.
I'm not sure it's that. By the way, producer Vic did some digging. Your last NHL fight was Sean Thornton, I believe. It just says S. Thornton, so it could be Scott Thornton or
Oh
Sean
yeah.
Thornton. Probably Sean,
Yeah,
right?
Sean for sure. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
There you have it.
That was your favorite dance partner too, no?
Yeah, we probably went 3, 4 times. Yeah, he was awesome. I like Thordy a lot, and he's just class, class, class all the way. I had lots of good ones with him, and lots of little funny, intricate details where he'd like let me get my breath, or we'd let each other up, or just this, that, or the other thing. He'd fought me when he had fresh stitches in his eye. He was just stand up guy all the time, and I stood up for him in the media one time when he got suspended by, giving a guy some pot shots with his glove on, and I'm like, you guys are discounting the fact that he has a padded glove on, giving the guy shots to the cheek. Like, quit acting like his neck's gonna break. You guys are so dumb. Like, these fucking media people sometimes just think they got the, oh, look at, I got the newspaper, so I'm gonna tell everyone how it is in the game. It's like, you're so lost sometimes. Some guys are such idiots. So I said what I thought, and then Thordy texted me and he's like, hey dude, I really appreciate that. If you ever want Patriots tickets, you want to go to Fenway, Celtics, whatever you want, you let me know. I got you in there. And it sounds like he's got the keys to the city in Boston, rightfully so.
That's a legit hookup and a friendship, maybe a budding friendship at that. But yeah, it just Leafs media is very, very interesting. Did players ever talk about that? Like, obviously, there was the whole war with Phil Kessel over the years. Dion Phaneuf was the captain. Like, did guys ever talk about that in the room? Where like, man, I really fucking hate that guy.
Yeah, sometimes it was like that in Philly too. Certain beat writers that, they get their name by, having a big scathing review, right? And that's
Yeah.
what gets the clicks and everything, I guess. So they decide to keep doing that, and they like to push the limits. But the thing is, if you're going to slam a guy in the newspaper, you got to show up and look at him in the face, in the locker room. And sometimes guys couldn't even do that. Look the guy in the eye. They just kind of hide and stick their mic in their arm into the scrum, and then ask some dickhead question, and guys just had enough of it, right? Like, yeah, be honest, and I'm not playing well, any of that stuff. Everybody gets, they're professionals. But when it starts to get silly and the guy's just clawing and digging for something that's not there, you look at the guy and you're just like, you're an idiot, man. And there's a couple times Kessel just walked out of a scrum, said you're an idiot, and walked away. Dion held it pretty good, but they didn't, he's such a big strong man. They don't overwhelm him too much. But yeah, all the time, doesn't matter what city it's in, you got your idiot beat writers, and everyone usually knows who they are too.
I love it right now in Philadelphia. Torts has a guy that he just won't address. It stems back, I think, to the Cutter Gauthier thing from a couple months ago. He just won't address him. The guy asks a question. He's like, I'm not answering your question. This is like a 2 month long saga. I could only wonder how long it's gonna last in Philadelphia. And surely it happens around the league, but as you mentioned, under the microscope in Toronto. Did you see this Sporticle um, article that came out in the last couple days? It ranked the Toronto Maple Leafs as the 82nd most valuable team in the world, whatever that means. The top NHL team, teams like Memphis, Detroit, Pistons ahead of them. I just don't know how this list quantified. Um, I would love to know what they're smoking when they make the list. The Raptors 48th, by the way. I don't put as much stock as some people do, but you see some of the teams on your screen there.
They're saying the Raptors are more valuable than the Leafs,
Yeah.
or no?
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay. Yeah, that's new. I don't know how they do those things. I don't know who Sportico is or where they get their information. I imagine, the details that you would need to have to go into defining a worth of something that's that big of a machine is not something that's easy. And it's like those people's net worth thing. What is so and so's net
I
worth?
know.
Well,
Who knows?
you can look at his contract, but you don't know what he's lost in the casino. You don't know what he's made on investments. You don't know how much real estate he holds. Like, it's kind of dumb. So I always take those things with a grain of salt. And yeah, I thought the Maple Leafs would be a lot higher on that list, being worth two Bs. I don't know how many outfits are worth that. There's a lot of soccer outfits and stuff that are worth a lot more that I don't know about. But that list seemed a little wonky to me, didn't it? You?
Yeah, for sure. I always wonder once a year that list comes out. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. By the way, shout out to our guy Fizz Bronson in the chat, calling out the chat. You guys know we love accountability. 159 viewers, only 23 likes. I couldn't agree more. What are you guys doing? We have 190 people watching right now at the Leafs Nation 401, where you can subscribe on YouTube. Hammer that like button. Help us out for once. We appreciate that. Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and maybe comment how much you love this podcast as well. That'd be fantastic. Brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off, up to $10 in value and zero delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more. When you download the DoorDash app, enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25, all in uppercase. 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada. Subject to change. Terms apply. So the expectation going into Mullett Arena, which, by the way, was louder than Scotiabank Arena, so bravo to them, is that Auston Matthews would get number 50. Well, he scored 2. His parents were there. His family was there. Scored one off the neck. This guy's on a different planet. I honestly don't know what else to say about Auston Matthews, and I know you had a lot to say about the way he scored his 50th and sort of the no-sell in the celebration, too.
Yeah, man, he's scoring so often. It's not a surprise to him anymore, obviously. But I'm just surprised at his kind of, I don't know if it's his new spot. It's just further out by the boards on that half wall, kind of almost even below the hash mark, and he's constantly like, it's not even like this big 1T where the goalie, where it's across ice and the goalie can't get across. Like, he gets it, handles it, gives it a stick handle, and then just decides to rip it, where that's just like an unscorable place traditionally. The goalie is just on his post, on his angle, doing his job, and it's like, okay, shoot it from there. There's nothing to shoot at. And Austin's just constantly scoring from there. Like, he's seeing, I don't know if they're cheating or what's going on, but no one's beating goalies from out there like Auston Matthews. It's not even a place where guys think to score, and now all of a sudden he's doing it like quite consistently too. And it's, he's got his spot, where Draisaitl's got his. It's kind of the same idea, opposite of Ovechkin's office, basically, but he's even backed up more. And I'm just looking at it going, how are you scoring from there? Aren't the goalies on high alert when the puck's on your stick and they're giving you that, of all things? And he's taken it and he does not miss. It is ridiculous. And that one that bounces off his chest or neck, how many of those can you count that he's gotten this year? It's not a lot. They're all high quality, grip it and rip it, no questions asked type of buries, and no empty netters. Like, this guy's ridiculous right now.
He's a fucking mutant. There is no other way to explain what Auston Matthews is doing this season. You hit the nail on the head. That's the biggest one for me. 0 empty netters. Look at Alex and Ovechkin's career. And again, I'm taking nothing away from Ovi. I think he's the best goal scorer of all time right now, at least from what I've seen. Empty netters up the yin yang. They're all earned with Auston Matthews. They're all shots. It's very similar to Ovechkin. Like, most of the time, you know what's going to happen. You still can't stop it. And the numbers are documented quite highly going into that game. Kirill Vejmelka had his way with Auston Matthews in his career against the Leafs specifically. They blew the doors off that building in the first period. But Matthews now up to 51. His current pace, 76 goals, 74th multi-goal game, 9 goals in the past 4. Like, they are video game numbers. Like, any of you out there who play the NHL video game and you put it on rookie mode, that's what's going on right now. But the crazy thing about this, there is no other league to get to. This is like the guy in your beer league, Rosie, where like he's too good for the league, too good for the team, but he plays. And that's what Auston Matthews is doing right now. But unfortunately, there's nowhere to put this guy. He's in the highest league in the world.
I know. I used to, like, at practice, you'd go do a drill and you'd snipe or something like that. You'd come back to the line and you'd be like, fuck, what's the league above this, boys? Like, is there another one, or is this it? And the guys are just rolling their eyes at you. But like, Austin lives in that world, like, every day during games. It's like, you could have a guy that's got sick hands and does things, and you could yell, you're yelling out to him, do it in a game, buddy. Like, yeah, we see in practice, do it in a game. Austin does it in a game 2 and 3 times a night, every night lately. I don't know. You can't really compare him to anyone else being this hot, man. He's scoring at will, and he like overshadows like Mitch Marner having like 3 apple. Like, he's got apples out his ass, and there's an argument like, oh, he wouldn't be anything without Marner feeding him all the time. And then I even heard like he wouldn't be anything without Bunting feeding him all the time. And it's like, okay, it's not Auston, then let's not give Auston credit. But Mitch is a good disher. There's no doubt about it. Would Mitch have as many apples if it wasn't for Auston? Of course not. And Auston wouldn't have as many goals. They work well together, and they're just point factories, dude. And I hope they're not peaking or anything, and I hope they know the formula and how this happens. It does concern me that it just seems easy, right? They just saunter into Mullett Arena, and it just seems easy for us. And he's just kind of chuckling to himself like this is a joke. But I mean, they need to realize, and I'm sure they do, that it's a different story in the playoffs, and you got to find ways to make this exact same thing happen in the playoffs when you're playing a good team and they're at their best and they're fucking dying for 16 wins to lift the Stanley Cup. And it is no easy nights through the playoffs. So they just need to take that next step and be able to do this type of thing in the postseason. And there's nothing that tells me they aren't ready to do that.
Surprise, surprise, some people trying to take away from Auston Matthews' dominance this season, saying, hey, where are the assists? If you want to be a Hart Trophy contender, how can you have 24 apples in 54 games? Unsurprisingly, it's people in Colorado. It's people in Tampa to a degree. It's people certainly in Edmonton with Connor McDavid. What would your response be to that? Because I think it's bullshit. This guy's a pure sniper. He's a sheer sniper. He just shoots the puck and he scores a lot, like the most in a long, long time. People try to find a reason to deviate from like what's going on. I mean, you can't overlook the fact that this guy is on pace right now to do something that hasn't been done in 31 years.
Yeah, if he gets to 70, I think it's game over. You give him the Hart Trophy. I mean, it's the most valuable player to his team, right? Like who's the most valuable to your team? Kind of like that Conn Smythe, like the same idea. Like without him, who suffers the most without their number one guy? And at years it ebbs and flows. You got Kucherov doing things sometimes. Ovi's got his big years going on, and guys are putting up these big points and these big performances, and I get it. They're all in the conversation, but if a guy does something historic that hasn't been done in 35 years, and he gets to a number that's no one has even thought about in decades, like 70, then it's a no-brainer. Like goals are the biggest thing. Goals are the big fireworks show. Goals are the most important, like quote unquote. I don't totally believe that. I'd take a guy with 100 assists over a guy with 50 goals. But when you have that many and you do something that hasn't been done in that long, it's kind of like, well, how do you not give it to him? Like imagine looking back and being like, yeah, remember when Auston scored 72 goals and it hasn't been done in 35 years and no one's done it 15 years since? Yeah, they didn't even give him the Hart Trophy. Oh, who got it? Oh, they gave it to Kucherov or something. Like fucking so dumb. Like if he gets to 70, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, because I mentioned earlier this week, like he's raised the bar, right? When he scored 60, we're like, yeah, he deserves the Hart Trophy. Well, what has he done to raise that bar? Well, he's on pace for 76 or whatever it is. I couldn't agree more with you. I think we have to give Mitch Marner his flowers as well. I know I put out the statistics since Willie Nylander signed his extension. The guy's been incredible for like the last month. Like this is vintage Mitch Marner. He was dancing in Arizona on Wednesday night, 8-game point streak, Rosie, 2 goals, 15 assists, 17 points. He's been brilliant.
Yeah, tons. You see that dish,
Nasty.
that goal that went off Austin's face there, basically. I mean, I don't through the legs, sauce through a seam, lands on the tape. Like that's absolutely filthy. Those are the things that lose you games in the playoffs. I'm sorry to say, like
Sure.
he's disgustingly skilled. That's a wicked play. You want to try it in Arizona, sure, and you're good enough to pull it off. Even better, you are a point production machine this year. Hats off to you. Again, when the going gets tough, it is a new style of hockey, and I don't want the people to be pissed off that I can't give Mitch his accolades. He's phenomenal. He's disgusting. He's a point producing machine. He's got apples coming out his eyes, and I love it. But you pull that play in the playoffs, Nathan McKinnon will turn it the other way and put it up your ass so fast, and you'll be sitting on the couch in a couple of weeks because you try that shit at all in the playoffs, and she's gone. So that's my only worry with seeing that stuff. As impressive as it is, hats off to you, Mitch. Great regular season apples and everything. Let's keep going, baby. Get some grit, get some jam. Forget about that between the legs shit. Go to the net and frickin' fill it. I'm looking for
Fuck,
that.
man. I tried my hardest to be Mitch Marner there. I set you up on a 1T and you just you just wouldn't take the bait. I get it. It's a different game in the playoffs. You can't pull that shit. Like, I can't remember the last time I saw a highlight reel goal that way that happened late in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's going to be grinding type goals, and that's why I've been really impressed with Bob McMahon. Again, this is a big time story. And speaking of which, I'm not impressed with producer Vic, who alerted us last night in the Leafs Morning Take chat that Bobby McMahon's a UFA. So it makes sense because, I mean, UFA guys, they pop off all the time. But he has 7 goals in the past 5. He had 1-1 against Arizona. It's like, here we go again, where like we could see another core 4 casualty. I'm not speculating saying Bob McMahon's going to get $4 million per season, but it just seems to happen to this team so frequently. You know what side they're going to pick. They're going to have to keep that money for the core 4, and another depth piece could be on the way out. I don't want to be negative about it, but he's been a great story, man. He has been so good the last month and a half here.
It's just like the timing is brutal. A guy's on the Leafs and
I know.
gets this hot and contributes this much. Why isn't it a guy that we just signed?
I know.
Right?
Never
Why
is.
isn't it a guy that we have locked up and says, yes, we got him for this
Value.
amount of money and he found his stride afterwards. And holy, did he put on the afterburners, after signing that contract? No, it's this Bobby McMahon who no one even knows what his contract situation is because he's not really on the radar. He gets hotter than a bloody pistol. He's only played like 40 games in the NHL. He gets so hot. He looks like one of the hottest commodities out there right now. And then what do you want us to do? Give him $4 million and then watch him turn back into the bubble guy that's partially slated for the American Hockey League? You can't do that. Someone else might, but it just sucks. Like timing of it. Like, why can't he do that when why can't someone that we just signed come out and do that and blow the doors off everything and give us a good value? Because it's so Toronto to have a guy, all of a sudden do well, and then it's like, well, throw a bunch of money at him to keep him, and then it's like, oh, that was just kind of a flash in the pan thing, and you're stuck. So obviously that can't happen. Even if they wanted it to, I don't think the cap will allow it with the big boys. So I don't know. I hope that his head isn't in the clouds and his agent is like, hey, we're looking for a nice little piece here, a 2-year thing that's not crazy. We understand we still got a lot of proving to do, and we've only played 50, 60 games in this league. And you can sign him up for something that's reasonable. But if his numbers are crazy and the comparables that they go to, the table with are these big star guys because he's hot as hell the last 2-3 months of the season, we're in trouble as far as keeping him.
Every guy's different. I think important to stress the guy's 27. I'd want to get paid. I can't speak for everybody out there. I'd want to get paid. I'm going to look for every penny possible. It's so, you're so right though. Like, and then on top of that, he's going to go to Vancouver, Edmonton. They seem to pluck every fucking Leaf free agent ever. Ilya Mikheyev, Zach Hyman. I mean, we all know Lafferty's out there. He was dealt out there. It's the same old dog and pony show. It's like, why can't it be a guy who they signed to a 5-year contract or whatever, and he's outplaying his value and what he got in free agency? Like, it just never, it's always this story. And then maybe we're guilty of it. We're the media, and we're going to make a bigger story maybe than what it is. And, the guy's going to get paid. Like, it's again, it always goes back to the core 4. But I'm going to stay reserved. I'm going to enjoy this moment. I think it's great to see. How often do we talk about the depth scoring? I still have some major league concerns. I mean, you look at the numbers from the All-Star break, and producer Vic put out the statistic. It's been McMahon, it's been Nylander, and Matthews that have supplied a great chunk of the offense since the All-Star break. But this team is winning. They're feeling good. In your wildest dreams, could you have predicted they'd go 5-0 without Morgan Rielly, outscoring their opponents 27-11? It makes absolutely no sense. Would you be shocked if they now lose the next 5 with Rielly back?
Well, I hope not, but it is these weird anomalies, man. The Leafs sometimes do things backwards, and it's almost like they do them so backwards you can set your watch to it because it just, like we said this, don't worry, they'll be absolutely flying without him. Look at their record without him, and all they did was add 5 W's onto that no Morgan Rielly statistic. Why that happens, I don't know. It's not a great look for Morgan Rielly. Does it mean he's not needed or not necessary or not valued? No, it doesn't. But something's going on when he's not there that they need to continue to channel when he is. I think we talked a little bit yesterday. Maybe it's the ice time allocation and how that's spread out a little bit. I mean, you don't doesn't this last 5 games just prove that you don't have to work Morgan Rielly like a bloody mule out there. Like, you just don't
Maybe.
have to.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't have to play 30 minutes a game. He doesn't have to be your workhorse that you just, "Are you good? Do you have any breath left at all? Okay, get back out there. Get back." Like, you don't have to do that, man. You can save your guys. You can keep their energy, keep the miles off their body, and you're not selling the farm by doing that. You're not throwing it down the river. You're fine. They've won 30 out of, like, whatever the numbers are now without him. You're okay. You don't have to work him like a mule. So I think that goes the same for, the core four as well. And when you get the the depth pieces engaged a little bit more, and you get them their legs and you allow them to get that sweat on, they're much more in the game. They're much more effective. They're a bigger piece of the puzzle, and that allows them to, especially the Bertuzzis and the Domies and whatnot, to get more cracks at it and to get a little bit of a rhythm going. So if we did allocate, especially down the stretch here going into playoffs, a little more ice time to others and spread it out a little bit more evenly. I mean, I know you want to, make hay while the sun shines with the big guys, but maybe it's been a little bit off kilter, and maybe you don't need to go that heavy on your stars.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff any way you look at it. The fact that you lose your number one defenseman and you elevate, very similar again to last November. We've talked about that quite a bit on the show, where it seemed like everybody and their mother was injured on the blue line, and the Leafs went on an epic run. Same type of story. So now 19-2-1, dating back to last season without Morgan Rielly. Now 25-2 against the Western Conference this season. That's a big time story. The numbers are revolting when it comes to production the last 5 games. Matthews had 9-3, Mitch Marner at 11 apples, Bobby McMahon 7-2, Nylander 6-3. The two guys that really stood out in the back end, and we talked about this, they needed guys to elevate. Timothy Liljegren, 7 apples in the last 5 games, and TJ Brody is plus minus over plus 11, plus 12, plus 13, that territory. Those guys have really, really picked up their play, which this team needed. Brody specifically, like, there's a lot of conversation, understandably so, on social media, him going to the left side and him having success. What would you do now with Rielly back? Like, you don't want to fuck with that, do you?
No, it's just tough for TJ Brody. Here's a guy where you're asking him to play at his absolute ceiling, right? To help out this back end. And that's a big ask out of anybody. It doesn't matter if you're the bottom of the NHL or if you're a generational superstar. To ask a guy to constantly play at and above his ceiling is not exactly ideal. And especially when you ask him to play on his offside, like, you got to play on the proper side when you're not, like, especially if you're a TJ Brody, like, you got to at least be in your comfortable spot. I mean, you're constantly getting, you know, your passes on your backhand. You're constantly on the wall with, your hand exposed to the middle. There's a reason lefties and righties like to play their sides. It's because you have puck protection over there, and you're catching the puck on your forehand. And when you go away from that, all of your pivots are on your different side. You're, as a defenseman, you're using your different leg as your strong pivoting leg. You're opening up the opposite way. Your gap ups are going to a different way. I mean, you play a certain side from the time you start playing defense. You get pretty goddamn good at it and pretty comfortable at it. And all of a sudden, you got to go to the other one. It's not like you're on outer space or anything, but it's considerably difficult. And it's not really fair to ask of him to do that when you're already asking for his ceiling on the back end as it is. So it's tough. There's got to be, I mean, how about the trade deadline? How about we get someone that kind of alleviates that stress, and you can keep Morgan Rielly where he needs to be and get Brody on his left side, and, mix it up that way with a Tanev or something. So they'll
Yeah.
find a way to fix it. But yeah, it's a tough spot for Brody, and he's been a good soldier, playing where he's not obviously as comfortable.
Good problems to have. Again, he's been brilliant on that left side, so I'm very curious as for the configuration, the combinations to be used in the back end against the Vegas Golden Knights. That preview is coming up. Ilya Samsonov, 23 stops, now 8-2 since being recalled from the AHL. That's a big time story for me. 7 different Leafs multi-point nights. Unfortunate couldn't get Matthew Nyes on the score sheet. That would have been fantastic. And John Tavares, I couldn't believe it. This is the biggest story of the night for me. His first 5-on-5 goal in 28 games, man. Like, this guy's been starving for anything 5-on-5, even strength-wise. I believe 15 of his 42 points in the year via the power play. Any way you can get it, I thought JT was really good in that game, so it's great to see.
Yeah, it was to see. That's kind of crazy to believe with the ice time and who he plays with 5-on-5. Like, I mean, some guys, that's all they play is 5-on-5. If you got that
Exactly.
much ice time, 5-on-5, and you played with those guys, and you went 25 games and didn't score a goal, and you're not even as talented as JT, people would be like, "Get off of my roster, you plug," right? And it's not
Yeah.
really fair, but every opportunity in the world, and he just continues. Some guys get that, right? I mean, it's like a first rounder coming out of into the pipeline of an organization, and he's sitting there beside the seventh rounder. Who do you think is going to get more opportunity? Who do you think is going to get a longer leash? Who do you think can make more mistakes? Who do you think they're going to be more patient with? It's not really fair, but it's just the way it is. But it's good to see him get that monkey off his back. And I'm not sure how aware of that type of stuff he is. He kind of flies under the radar because he does
Yeah.
other things as well. But no, I don't help with my parlay last night. I had Johnny 2 shots, Marner 2 assists, and Matthews 2 points, and it went cha-ching. Loved it.
Full eggplant emoji for Jay Rosehill. Again, if you're just tuning in, haven't been with us this week, feeling under the weather in Cancun, feeling better the last couple days, capped off by a mighty, mighty Leafs victory, 6-3 against the Arizona Coyotes. Auston Matthews scores 50, and then JT gets a 5-on-5 goal, which is great to see. And we talked about this throughout the season, the last couple days. Nothing phases this guy. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He's a 3C right now. I don't think he cares. John Tavares cares about winning, and that's it. By the way, we're doing a bit of a new segment coming up with our friends over at Great Clips. So if you have some questions for us that you want us to answer, like a Leafs mailbox type thing, ask away in the chat, and we'll pick a couple of those and answer in a couple segments for now. But for now, we're going to tell you about Douglas. Named Canada's best mattress on Canadian living, Douglas is loved by more than 200,000 Canadians, and they're backed by over 10,000 five-star reviews. Every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle, 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector. That's a $650 value, yours for free when you order a Douglas mattress now. Order today at douglas.ca/LMT. That's douglas.ca/LMT. We talked a bit about it yesterday. Joseph Woll practicing with the Marlies. The plan, by the way, we didn't talk about that. He'll play an AHL game this weekend. We did discuss the slate. They got Friday, Saturday, then Wednesday. So he's going to play 1 game, and then they're going to see how he feels. So reading in between the lines of the tweet you see on your screen via Luke Fox of Sportsnet, Woll's return could be imminent, man. They're looking at Tuesday against Vegas, Thursday, Arizona, Saturday against the Rangers. I'm looking forward to this.
I think Thursday, Arizona would be a good slate for him.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's going to go down and get some reps and get in some game action, get his timing down a little bit, and see how he feels. I imagine he's been pushing it pretty much to the limit here in practice, and he's done everything he can out of game action. So yeah, that's the one step before you're on the card in the starting position, man. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see him again. Temper your expectations. This guy's been out since like the beginning of December. That's a long time ago. So he'll be rusty, and maybe he won't be. Maybe he'll come in and stand on his head, but I'm not going to expect him to come in and stand on his head. And I think that, what are they going with tonight on this back-to-back? I thought we'd see Martin Jones. Yeah, last night we didn't. I can almost guarantee we're back to Sammy here tonight, eh?
Oh, it's going to be Jones tonight, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Why Jones? Why Jones
Well,
against Vegas, and why? Why?
it's pretty simple. I think you want to dress your best roster. They'll never admit this. They knew their issues. Auston Matthews talked about it after the game. This is a tough team. We never beat them. We've been struggling against them. You take care of business. You put your best roster foot forward and say, hey, we're going to win this game. We'll worry about Vegas when we get to Vegas. That's my only logic. Because I, like you, was a bit surprised. I thought you would go with your backup, if you want to call him that, the way Samsonov has been playing against an inferior team, but they elected to go with their number 1.
And I wouldn't be shocked if they went to him again tonight, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. But I haven't seen any of that. But that's kind of where I'm leaning before anything, to be honest. If they went with Martin Jones, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of weird. But I don't know. Keefe does things his own way. It's all good. Both of them are capable, and like you said, the real conversation is on the horizon probably next week with Woolsey coming back.
For sure. And we look forward to finding out. We're not going to find out till maybe a couple hours before puck drop. Again, note the start time for this one, 10 Eastern time in Vegas. Looking forward to that one. Once again, Mark Stone, the captain of the Golden Knights, banged up last game. As far as I know, he's not going to play. He's out for a pretty long period of time, it sounds like. And Jack Eichel's not in that lineup either. So maybe things aligning in the way of the Maple Leafs. Morgan Rielly expected to return to the lineup in that game. So now's that time I was just talking about when it comes to questions. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand, an official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated and open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time, check in on your phone, and get your haircut when you want. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips. It's going to be great. One of the questions we got in the chat, Rosie, John Tavares as 3 seed. Do you like that, hate that, or just working on it a bit here?
Working on it. I don't mind. I mean, if you got guys like him down to the third line, that tells me that there's lots of guys going right now. It tells me there's lots of depth. It's fine. Tells me you're finding chemistry with lots of guys. I don't care where he plays. I like that you have an option to not have him always pegged in these positions because there's no one else to take his spot. It's nice. You can shuffle guys around, and I think, like we said yesterday, you are trying to find that chemistry. And obviously, Keith loves shuffling it up and looking for chemistry. It seems like, does he ever find it? Because even when it works well, he changes it again. So it's a head scratcher sometimes with him. But I don't. I'm not a big lines guy where it's like that can't happen. He's not going to work this way because he likes to go to the net on this side of his hand, and the player he's playing with legs is just like, okay, stop. Like I don't care. They're all capable hockey players. They've all played on a million different teams and adjusted accordingly their entire way. So they're more than capable. And if someone comes up to play second seed, then that's just fine. There's a reason for it, and it means that lots of other guys are chugging along and having success. So I'm sure it's totally fine with everybody if that happens.
Man, I was so rattled. Before the game, I wrote a nice little fluff piece on how I felt Tyler Bertuzzi should be on PP1 for a longer extended period of time, and that would mean demoting John Tavares to PP2. And what do? They come out and put JT back on PP1. They get that 5-on-3. It's like you just never know. You take everything you see in terms of line combinations from Sheldon Keefe with a grain of salt. And I still put the article out. It's about to go live in about 10 minutes. How I think they should give Bertuzzi an extended look. Like, that's what sort of annoyed me. You score 6 more goals and nothing from Bertuzzi, nothing from Domi. Like, these point nights, it would be great to see some of these guys chip in and get points. And I know they try to give these guys their cookies, put them on the power play and stuff like that. You're trying to win a hockey game at the end of the day, but that's what really stuck out for me too, is like Bertuzzi's still looking for it, man. Still looking for it.
I know. I thought that after Austin scored his first goal, Bert's out front, and it's coming his way. Traditionally, that guy would pop that thing 5-hole or far side or something, but Austin just scores him out on the wall, and everyone's kind of chuckling like, holy smokes, and Bert's just kind of there like, yay, another one for you. He's got to be getting frustrated, but all you can do is just, I don't know, man. It's like, what did he used to do that he's not doing now? And it's not like he was a point connoisseur, but he had some years there with some good numbers, and we know he's capable of more than this. So I just imagine he's just keep looking for it, keep trying to find the formula that gets him to the spots where he can bury pucks, and hasn't been able to do that so far. But when guys are going through that, they just got to stay positive and keep at it and hope that the levee breaks.
Another question. Where are you at with Matt Dumba? Of course, Dumba on Arizona. The Leafs were linked to him. We had Elliot Friedman on a couple months ago, and he talked about how the Leafs really, really wanted Dumba. He elected to go to Arizona, presumably for maybe a bit more, but who knows truly on that front. Would Matt Dumba do it for you? I mean, let's say, and I would have to think he's a contingency plan. If you don't get Chris Tanev, it's probably Matt Dumba.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, he's not my first choice. I think a bigger body with more of the snot that is needed in the playoffs is a little better, and Chris Tanev fits that. But I can't claim to have watched Dumba 100 and front to back games and understood exactly what makes him tick. So I can't act like a Matt Dumba expert, but certainly one of the top tiers of the NHL, and a guy that could facilitate some of the things that they need around Toronto for sure. But like I said, not my first choice, but if that's, all you had and that's what you can put together and the deal sounds right and you feel like you're winning it, then for sure.
I'm just curious to see how the market goes. Like it's so fascinating that a couple weeks back at All-Star Weekend, we congregated, the Nation Network did here in Toronto, and it was just mayhem. Like Elias Lindholm gets traded, Sean Monahan gets traded. And now there's like this mega holding pattern where I think a lot of teams are looking at Calgary and saying, like, what are you doing with Jacob Markstrom? What are you doing with Tanev? What are you doing with Hanifin? Philadelphia's still in a playoff spot. Like, I love trades, man, but I don't get this excitement level this season because A, there's not much out there, and B, I think teams have learned to an extent from the last couple of years. Like the Rangers stuck out from last year, where you pick up Tarasenko, you pick up Mikkola, you pick up Patrick Kane, and it really didn't get them headed in the right direction. We talk about Swiss Army guys; those seem to be the biggest pickups the last couple of years. Barbashev, Lehkonen, guys like that, and there's just not much out there. So I wonder, from a domino effect, what happens first? Is it a Tanev? Is it a Markstrom trade? Is it a Henrique trade? But how does that impact the Leafs is what I'm going for here. Because again, if they don't get Tanev, it seems like 7, 8, 9 teams involved in Tanev. Where do they go next? Like if Philadelphia is not serious about trading one of those two guys, and Walker or Sealer, do you go to Dumba? Like that's what I want to know. They have to have a contingency plan in place here.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no guarantees they're going to get Tanev just because they could use him and they want him. There's a lot of guys talking about him and using his services. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting because the last couple of years, it seems like so much has happened pre trade deadline that it's kind of a boring deadline. Like there's not much to talk about, and everyone's kind of moved, and the pieces that are left that come through are kind of scraps almost. Where
Yeah.
this year is kind of setting up to be oh my God, a scrambling frenzy at the last minute where trades are coming in. You can't even analyze the last one before the big next one comes in. And that's more exciting for trade deadline shows and all that type of thing. But it seems to be a holding pattern for sure. And I don't think, obviously, when the talks are happening, no one wants to show their hand too closely and be the guy that bows down a little bit extra to get a deal done and then regrets maybe jumped the gun a little bit or maybe got taken advantage of. So it seems like a holding pattern. And yeah, make no mistake that there's more people interested in Tanev than just the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they will, those guys that they mentioned, they'll be looking for. They just want, I think they just want a big blue liner that can be solid and be clean and be smart and be hard, right? So
Mhm.
anyone that fills those skates, get them in a Leafs uniform. And our first choice, I think, is certainly Chris Tanev.
Realistically, if they pick up one defenseman and maybe like a depth forward who doesn't cost a lot, I'd be pleased because I think you sort of lose sight of the fact every year this team goes where the core four goes. Like when push comes to shove in the Stanley Cup playoffs, if the big boys are the big boys, they're going to go far. If they're not, they're not. I think people just big brain the operation too much around deadline time. Dave writes in the chat about the Boston Bruins last year. Perfectly put. They picked up Orlov. They picked up Bertuzzi. It doesn't guarantee you success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we've been talking about this a lot the last couple of weeks, blowing your load, trading your first round pick. I just think this year specifically, that does not make sense. There is not a player out there, maybe outside of Jake Gensel right now, where I'm like, Toronto should trade their first round pick. And that really doesn't address the needs. Like, I understand they have their depth issues in the playoffs and scoring goals and all that, helping out the core four. They direly need a defenseman. So if they get one D and one depth forward, I'll be happy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you look at you mentioned Boston. You look at the Rangers last year too. With, they jump on Patrick Kane and they jump on Tarasenko, and it just didn't work for them. It looks like they loaded up like they're this powerhouse. It just doesn't work. Sometimes there's a power struggle. Sometimes they're guys are pulling against each other. Like I play this way. Well, I kind of play this way, and we're not matching up. I can't find you out there. I feel like I'm playing by myself, and it's like these are two studs that can't figure it out together. It just doesn't work. Their styles don't match up. So yeah, there's something to be said about not wrecking the chemistry either. Obviously, the roster we have right now happens to be clicking right now, and does that mean they're world beaters? No, but the pieces got to make sense, and you don't just start
Mhm.
unloading first rounders just because someone will trade you something for it. It's got to be exactly what you need. So again, yeah, we've talked about it the other day too. It's like a good D-man would be awesome, and yeah, like I don't know, a depth piece or a guy with some experience or maybe someone with some term or something would be okay if
Yeah.
if it makes sense. But just to unload a first rounder just to get another guy to shrug your shoulders and go, I don't know, I hope that works. Like
Yeah.
that's not the play. So I don't know. They're in a pretty good spot. And again, you make subtle changes and get us that big demon that we've been looking for. I think people will be pretty happy, especially as of late when they've been showing that they can play as a team and play 60 minutes and play simple and finish games off and get the wins against pretty good teams and lower teams. And they kind of look a little more well-rounded lately. So I think there's not as much panic in Leafs Nation.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It really is, considering what the feeling was a week ago as we awaited word, obviously, on what was going to transpire when it came to Morgan Rielly. They go 5-0-0. Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year in daily face-off. For those of you who smoke the competition, Wendy's is rewarding you with weekly prizes that will have you winning despite your lack of team building skills. Download the Wendy's app and score yourself 150 bonus reward points on your first order and grab a sweet victory for the mouth-watering jaws of defeat, along with some fresh, never frozen beef. Sign up to play Daily Face-Off to win weekly prizes like the spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's and the Wendy's app. So the first of 2 meetings in 5 days with Vegas. In fact, the next 2 outings for the Maple Leafs will be against the last 2 Stanley Cup winners in Vegas and Colorado. So another one of those measuring stick games, but as mentioned, no Mark Stone, no Jack Eichel. Shea Theodore is back in the mix, so they got that blue line intact to a degree when it comes to Vegas. But I like these measuring stick games. Do you like these like mini series, by the way? We've seen this quite a bit. See this with Arizona and now Vegas. Like Vegas is going to be at Scotiabank Arena on Tuesday.
Yeah, I do like it. I think it's good. It's good for, rivalry. It's good for like retribution when things happen out there. You can get another crack at it. And it's nice for the players too and the coaching staff, especially your pregame rundown and analytics and everything that you do to go into preparing for an NHL hockey game. They've just seen the guy. So everything's always fresh, right? The players are usually the same, the injuries are usually the same. It's easy to prepare for, and it sets up for some potential, like rivalries or something happened in game 1. I can't wait to see game 2 and how they respond to that. So yeah, I'm all for it. It's a positive thing. I like it, and I'm pumped for these measuring stick games too. This Colorado, Vegas Golden Knights. These are the tests where, okay, Auston, okay, boys, you think you're clipping along here? Well, time to prove it. Time to make sure things are going right. Time to make sure you guys have got your head on straight and are thinking clearly. Go out and beat these 2 teams, and then we'll start to talk about some buzz happening around Toronto.
This is your classic heat check game, right? They've won 5 in a row. It's the back end of a back-to-back. By the way, the Leafs are 4-3-0 in the second game of a back-to-back this season. They're 16-6-6 on the road, which is important to stress. But it's your heat check game. Again, you got the fresh team in the Vegas Golden Knights. You're riding off the high of Auston Matthews in Arizona. You've taken care of business, and you should be boosted by the return of Morgan Rielly. It's crazy how quickly time can pass. The 5-game suspension is over, Rosie.
Yeah, just ripped it off like that. 5 wins. Thanks for coming. I'm back. So no harm, no foul now for everyone who was saying what a devastating move that was to his team. I think it didn't hurt him non-single bit. So
The bank account a bit.
What's that? Yeah, the
Just
bank account. Yeah. His bank account will be okay. It's okay. But yeah, these are the big games here. You got Morgan back. Find that same formula. Don't take what's happening for granted. Work on it, build on it, address it. Always be working towards what's working and how do we access that again tonight and how do we build on it? How do we make sure we don't slip? Because yeah, this is a heat check game. This is a one they could just slide off the plan and all of a sudden they have nothing and they just get the fucking floor mopped with them. And they're like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's like, God, guys, like, did you get too high on your horse, or did it seem too easy, Auston? Like, what, like, it's a heat check time. You gotta, preparation's going to be huge. The pregame speeches and the pregame meetings are going to be huge. Boys, we're not sliding this. We're worrying about ourselves here. Everything's got to be done the same way and everything's got to be done hard and everything's got to be done smart. And like, just reiterate these key components that have gotten you success so far. You have to replicate them, and even more so against these big boy teams that have won Stanley Cups recently. So yeah, big test game for them for sure. I'm excited for them.
Rosie, spill the tea. So assuming you would be part of the leadership core of this team, is it like, You walk into Sheldon Keefe's office. Hey, Sheldon, it's gonna a green light special tonight in Vegas after this game, win or lose, right? Like, are you having that conversation before the game, after the game, regardless of the win or loss? Are you going to the Sphere at the to watch you too? Like, I think it's got to be a full send considering the way they played.
If you go into the coach's office and ask if you can go get shit faced before the game, I think whether you're gonna
Fuck
start
yeah,
off with some problems right away. But no, if I were the team, I'd have a team dinner all set up at somewhere cool like the Sphere. I don't care, break off $100,000 and get them in somewhere and have them all together, have some wine, do something cool, get them together, have some laughs, all that shit. Some guys will go out and hit the tables. That's fine. That's out of your control. But yeah, set something up for the guys to kind of get together and get that camaraderie and that chemistry built up off the ice, and that only does good things for teams.
assuming you heard the story about Nashville. I don't know if you've talked to Shenner. I don't know if he disclosed anything to you, but did you hear that story over the weekend?
No, I never did.
I guess you've been away, so apparently, and I don't think Shen would tell you anything, but apparently, so Nashville was in Vegas earlier this week. A game I jumped on Vegas or on Nashville to win. They were the plus money underdog in that game, but they had something set up at the Sphere to go watch YouTube play at the Sphere, like a team function. Entire team training staff was there, and Andrew Brunette, the head coach, was not pleased and not happy with the play of the team. He pulled it from them. He said, "We're not fucking doing it. We're not going." And there was a bit of uproar in Preds Nation. It was on Hockey Day in Canada. Elliot Friedman brought it up, and so they didn't go to the Sphere. They didn't end up going.
Ha! Little daddy followed through with the threat of discipline there.
Do you
The
like that
kids'
or hate that?
the kids' faces were shocked as dad turns the bus away from heading to Chuck E. Cheese. Hey,
Pretty much.
no, I'm fine with it, man. I mean,
Really? Eh?
there's more to the story than what we get because you're not in that locker room every day. You're
Sure.
not, I don't know how practices are going. I don't know where the focus level is. I don't know what guys' attitudes are on that team. But if the coach starts to feel it slipping and he's asked for more focus and it hasn't happened, he's asked for the work ethic to be there during the drills and the practices, it's not quite there. He's asked for the application of the video sessions and the meetings to be taken to practice and to the games, and that's not happening. Sits down and has a one-on-one with guys and can't quite get through to them, and they seem to be on their own page. Fuck that. And a coach, he'll put the brakes on right away. You guys want to go dick around and have fun when I'm asking you to be pros and you're not doing it? Get the hell back to the hotel room and go eat the freaking buffet. Like, sorry, but it's time to smarten up. I mean, it's just like raising kids, man. If they'll get away with everything until you give them a reason not to. And holy shit, is that disappointing for those guys? Yeah. Is it embarrassing that they need to be disciplined like that? Yeah. But it obviously that guy needed to send a message to his team and hopefully a message received. But no, you're not going to go out and play all the time if expectations aren't being made when it's time to work.
The best thing about it, it worked. As mentioned,
Exactly.
Nashville went into Vegas and they won that hockey game. I was a bit stunned how pissed people were about this. Like, prolific names in the hockey media world were like, I can't believe Andrew Brunette did that. Like, that's all about accountability, man. Like, you play in the show, there's no guarantees. I don't care if you're going to Vegas for a road game. Like, we're gonna do something, we're not gonna do it. I liked it. I thought it was a ballsy move in 2024. I'll say that.
Yeah, you're the captain of the ship, man. Like
Yep.
when the axe falls on someone, when that team doesn't perform, guess whose head gets cut off? It's the head coach first and then everyone
True.
after. So, he's in control. He's the captain of the ship. And if he doesn't like what's happening, obviously something was going on for him to be pissed off enough to say, I'm not going to let these guys go out and do this leisure stuff because they're not doing their work at the office. So I'm fine with it, man. It's not something he would have liked to do. It's on the players. I bet you he had a speech saying something like, "You guys were supposed to go out, do some team bonding, exchange some fellowship here, do some off ice activities and get to know each other and bond a little bit. And now we can't because you guys are acting like dickheads and you're not listening to anything that's going on and it's unacceptable. Now we have to pull it to go do more work and to let the message be received that it's not good enough." So it's unfortunate that's what had to happen. I'll ask Shanner what happened. He'd probably roll his eyes and say, "Yeah, well, the guys are dog fucking it, and guys think their head in the clouds is good enough, and coach had enough of it, and think we're gonna go play when we can't work at the." It's the way it is. So it sucks, but I think it's part of the new NHL where these young kids sometimes need a little bit of discipline, a little bit of wakey in order to get them back on track. They can go off on their own planet sometime, I believe.
Put it this way. Imagine Sheldon Keefe pulled that shit and it was the Maple Leafs. The uproar. Like, it's
Whatever.
Nashville. That's good that it's Nashville. It barely got play. Hell, you didn't even know about it. I know you're in Cancun, but imagine if it was a team like the Maple Leafs, man. It would just never happen. They'd be fucking going regardless of the losing streak.
I don't know. Whatever Keefe says, man. If he wants to shut it down, it would just certainly be a lot bigger news, and people be talking about and analyzing it. But to
Yeah,
me, it's like you don't know shit about that locker room or that
nothing.
crew or what they've been through the last 2 weeks. So if that's his decision, then it sounds like there was good reason to go that way.
The Betano wrap-up is presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Major announcement. Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. Unforgettable moments at Mullett Arena on Wednesday. Are you taking the Auston Matthews anytime goal again? Are you doubling down tonight in Vegas?
Tonight in Vegas, not right off the top of my head. I mean,
What
the
do you
value is
like?
not going to be there. I think I thought he was going to get it yesterday for sure. I would not be surprised, obviously, if he got it tonight. But not my first choice on bets. I'm gonna have to look around a little bit. What do you got?
Um, I don't know what Leafs team we're gonna see. Like, again, that was a big moment for me last night. Like, people will laugh and scoff at that, but like to beat Arizona the way they did, I think sort of showed me this team is actually legitimately prepared to take that next step in their 82 game journey here. But
Yeah, it's
you
embarrassing they
know,
had that bad of a record against.
yeah, they haven't been good against Arizona. That start was fantastic. And granted, the Yotes have now dropped 11 in a row. I did get my Kerfoot point. I did get my Sean Dursey point, which we pointed out. Kerfoot's coming back next week. We'll try to get him on the show, by the way. Um, I think a shot prop of some sort. I love how Willie's shooting the puck right now. If you want to get ballsy, man, double down. Bobby McMahon, you're getting extreme plus money, like plus 450. I almost hammered it yesterday. I just didn't do it. But maybe you look to that direction. I'm probably just going to
Yeah.
sit back and watch. And I wouldn't be stunned if the Leafs go in there and win that hockey game. I just mentioned it. Vegas, yeah, they're fresh, but they're really, really banged up. You take Stone and Eichel out of that lineup, you should win that game.
Yeah, if they're buzzing the way they are, man. But those guys are going to dig deep without their guys in the lineup as well, and they're going to try to rattle one off. They know they're playing a hot opponent who's been rattling off wins and getting points, and have a whole bunch of players that are hotter than a pistol. So they'll be ready to rock too. I'm more concerned about the outcome of the game and the 60-minute effort of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's kind of where my eyes are.
Yeah, no. If Mitch Marner has a couple more apples in between the legs, Rosie's going to come on here and just slam the guy. But Rosie's going to be back in Alberta tomorrow. No more of this Cancun shit, right?
Yeah, I'll be back in business tomorrow. Back in the prairies, so it'll be all good. Time to go. We're gonna pack up right now. I thought our show was gonna be a little bit shorter than normal, but here we are, approaching an hour.
I had verbal diarrhea today. What else can I say, buddy? Great stuff. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys are phenomenal. At the Leafs Nation 401. Hammer that subscribe button. Hammer that like button. Help us out. Producer Vic, you're outstanding as per usual. The Leafs win it. Going for 6 in a row against Vegas. We'll talk on Friday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.